Tom Jordan, forced backwards. Good tackle there from Finn Smith. Baxter, has he got there? He has! What a time for Finn Baxter. And another try on debut, young Henry Pollock.
The headbands and the long blonde hair, kind of, you've got kids kind of rocking up to the game and they're wearing headbands. And for me, I just try not to think about it too much, you know. If they want to copy me, like, great. It's only good for the game, and that's kind of, yeah, I guess the kind of goal of it is to play well on the weekend. And yeah, if they want to copy me on Saturday morning, then they can be my guest. You're listening to the England Rugby Podcast, O2 Inside Line, and I'm Henry Pollock. I'm Henry Pollock and I play for England Rugby and Northampton Saints. I play in the back row. There's 3 positions in the back row, there's 6, 7 and 8, and I normally play the 7 or 8 role. Probably the hardest working players on the pitch, I'd say. But yeah, we do all the kind of hard work that no one else wants to do, and put our head where it kind of hurts. And then also sometimes get the shining moments as well. I'd say the best flankers and number 8s in the world are just workhorses. They work really hard. Their work ethic off the ball is amazing, and then that gives them time on the ball to kind of showcase their skills. And then they have to have a good defence in their systems. Growing up, I was the loud kid in the room, I guess. Always getting in trouble in school. Always getting on the wrong side of teachers, and just, I guess, being a pain in the arse the whole way through. I grew up in Fewcott and Ardley. So I'm the youngest in my family. My brother Angus Pollock, he's 22 years old. He has just finished Birmingham University. He's also like almost a scratch grade handicapper at golf, which is pretty cool. My sister Zoe Pollock, she's 24, and she's an amazing athlete and pretty crazy as well. She also did all her athletic stuff, and now she's doing 50-kilometre runs and doing high roxes in her free time. And Hester Pollock and John Pollock are my parents. Try and go back as much as possible. And then we went to a school that was 25 minutes down the road, a prep school called Beachborough. Loved it there. Was there my whole kind of youth up until about 12, and then moved from there to Stowe School, which was, again, 5 minutes more down the road, further away from home. So and kind of was at Stowe until 18, and then lucky enough to get signed after that. So that's kind of my journey. So kind of growing up, like a very sporty family, like always doing like different sports. My mum was actually a professional athlete as well. She did the modern pentathlon. Funny story, she was actually meant to go to she did the world champs and came second, and then the Olympic year was the next year or the 2 years after. She couldn't go because she was pregnant with my sister, and the person who won it came like 3rd or 4th, and she actually beat them like 2 years earlier. So kind of weird story that kind of is all connected. And then like we've had a joke that my sister used to run, that she had to go to the Olympics because my mum never went be able to go, but unfortunately that didn't happen. And then growing up, did triathlon, did every kind of sport, loved sport. It was kind of, I guess, a way for me to kind of get outside of the classroom and kind of free a bit of my energy and all that frustration which I'm getting kind of in the classroom. So for me, sport was kind of a way that I could just relax and be myself. I had an older brother, so I was always playing in the garden with him. Had some good mates in the village that we used to always play with. So I was always kind of competing with people older than me, bigger than me. So I guess that kind of gave me my drive and made me kind of want to work harder. And I kind of guess always trying to punch above my weight. The worst thing I used to do at school would probably just be loud in lessons, like never listen to teachers, kind of always think my opinion was better than theirs. And I got in trouble for that. I got kicked out of classrooms. Always wanted to speak and just chat to my mates, and then I always got kicked out of like French and Spanish because I wasn't really interested in it. And so I used to spend lots of time sitting outside the classrooms on like their little naughty set, what they called it. But looking back at that, it's probably, I guess, made me who I am today. To be fair, looking back, I would have loved to, especially in those languages, kind of actually knuckle down. I think back then I wasn't really interested, thinking that, I'm not going to need this when I'm older, but looking back now, it'd be pretty cool if I could speak a bit of French and potentially be fluent in Spanish. Would be pretty cool. I was very fortunate. My dad was incredibly hardworking, and he unfortunately didn't spend much time at home when we were younger. He was growing his own business and spent lots of time away. So I think from an early day, I always kind of, all three of us always saw kind of hard work ethic in him. And he would do ridiculous shifts. He would be in 3 or 4 different countries in less than like a day probably. So I think kind of growing up, looking at him, kind of how hard he worked and how he kind of put put the work to one side and then also had the family side, kind of, I guess, made it kind of feel special for us. Like whenever he was with us, he wasn't thinking about work and he was very able to switch off, which I also think is very important in this environment that I'm in. It's difficult because like mum and dad have been so like influential in my life, and I think the main thing is when I was younger, was just playing in the garden with my siblings. To be honest with you, just messing around in the garden. We spent hours out there, whether it's on the trampoline or on the grass, just messing around, playing any sport that you could play. And then mates coming around who were always older. I was always just trying to, I guess, punch above my weight and always trying to kind of catch up, and I'd always kind of get sat down, or like if we played rugby, they'd always just like, I guess, kind of push me over and say you're too young, and I'd always be like, no, like I can do this. So I guess kind of that, and then my parents give me the freedom to kind of, I guess, do that from a young age. I think most parents potentially would have maybe taken a step back and been like, you know what, he's actually not ready for this, I guess. I know it sounds a bit weird, like I was probably like 7 or 8 at the time, but looking back now, it's probably actually like kind of gave me the initial drive, I guess. Yeah, so mum's she's an amazing person. She'd always put us before anyone else, I guess. And yeah, she was just always there and always just wanting us to be the best in what we were doing. I had a very tight family group around me, and I still do now, and just they believe in me and I believe in myself. So I guess you can do great things. It doesn't matter what you do on the pitch. When you go back there, you're still that 13-year-old little boy that, you know, never changed. And they see that as you never change, you know. Sometimes you can get kind of caught up in the moment. But yeah, when I go back there or go and see friends, it's just straight back to being that annoying 13-year-old. So self-expression for me is massive, especially in the environment we are, kind of a team sport. It's changed now, but it used to be that everyone had to kind of follow the previous players or follow the kind of system. And yeah, kind of coming into the environment young and being myself, I hope I kind of change that and kind of express that, you know, you can be yourself, and the celebrations aspect of it's just kind of what I do. And I think it's good for the sport, and yeah, it's good for kind of other kids to kind of show them, or younger people, that, you know, show your personality. Like everyone's different. That celebration kind of all started from, as I said earlier, just believing in myself, you know, and yeah, expressing myself. I saw this amazing quote, or kind of, I think one of my friends told me that it was something about LeBron, and he said that someone asked him in an interview saying, what's your kind of drive, and why do you want to always be the best? And he said that in every stadium he plays, there's always one person who's never watched him live, and he wants to prove to that person that he's the best. And I remember thinking that, going, that's actually like sick. Kind of, doesn't matter who's, like, you always want to be the best, and even if it's like, if you're in a big stadium, there's always one person who's never watched you live. So you being yourself towards that individual person, I guess kind of for him it gave him a drive, and for me it definitely like resonated in my mind, that kind of just go out there and be yourself and yeah, express yourself. I think we want to see it in the game. I think that's the way the game kind of grows. And I always use this analogy, but you look at the football game and everyone's got their own celebrations, and all the fans are doing it, and they're buying their favourite player's shirt because of that, and it just only grows the game. So yeah, like anyone coming up and has doubts about being themselves, just always be yourself. And like if someone told you to not do it, then just don't listen to them. I'd like to think I'd never kind of want to rein myself in. I think when you start playing within yourself, that's when you kind of doubt your kind of ability. Over the last kind of year, I've kind of had a lot of attention, I guess. So I guess I bring it back to my family, you know, just having that amazing family unit that I go back, and I guess no matter what I kind of did on the weekend, or it doesn't really matter, you know, you got to go and make your bed in the morning, you know, help mum or dad with the gardening. Like, it's just little things like that just, I guess, bring you back to earth. I guess the headbands and the long blonde hair, kind of, you've got kids kind of rocking up to the game and they're wearing headbands, and for me, I just try not to think about it too much, you know. If they want to copy me, like, great, it's only good for the game, and that's kind of, yeah, I guess the kind of goal of it is to play well on the weekend, and yeah, if they want to copy me on Saturday morning, then they can be my guest. I remember in my first year at Stowe, there's some older lads who were in the Saints Academy, and I was thinking that's quite cool. Like, and like when you're in the environment at school, where, like, the older boys, they seem so big and scary, and then before you know it, you're playing at that level. So I was very fortunate that my year at school I had 4 or 5 other players that were kind of very invested. Out of our year, we had myself, Archie McParn, who signed a professional contract, Noah Cowan, who signed for Ealing, Will Plessy, who signed for Scarlets, and Ewan Baker, who signed for Northampton. So I was very fortunate in the fact that kind of from the age of probably 15 onwards that I had them around me and we could always kind of push ourselves and drive ourselves. We had an amazing coach called Will Parkin who used to come into the club and just pass the ball around with us, kind of keep our skills on top of our game. And then kind of as I got older on, had my an S&C who used to come in, called Jason, who used to come in loads, 2-3 times a week and do some gym with me and with the other lads as well. And we all just kind of had a competitive drive to constantly get better and never kind of wanting to lose, which I guess kind of gave me the competitiveness and that, you know, I want to be the best and I hate losing.
My name is Will Parkin. I've known Henry since he was 12 years old. So I'm a coach in the England pathway, working with the 18s, 19s and 20s, but previously worked at Northampton Saints, where I first met Henry when he came into the academy. First impression of Henry probably is what you still see now. So although there was probably 3 men and their dogs stood watching this tournament, he was still giving it to the sideline just as much as you probably see it now. Very, very competitive. The smallest player on the pitch in the game, physically, but certainly the loudest and most competitive. He's so skillful, and that's a big point of difference for him. He's always very, very good at staying on top of his work. Very good mannerisms with teachers and staff, and I think rugby aside, he held himself very, very well. And I think sometimes perhaps you could argue that that's not the perception of him, but certainly all of the dealings that I had with him, I couldn't speak highly enough of. He's a fantastic young man. Anyone that watched him at under 18, you could probably, it wouldn't have took much to say he's going to go on and achieve big things in rugby. I'll be honest, I wouldn't have said it was all going to happen as quick as it did. You don't see risers like Henry anywhere near as often as you see in perhaps in other sports like football. You could see him celebrating as a 13-year-old to the 3 blokes and their dog that were stood watching that Sevens tournament. And that was exactly the same as when he was playing at Stowe on the North Front as a 17-year-old. And then again, like what you see in the Six Nations. So I think for him, it's almost, he doesn't really change a huge amount based on the exposures that he gets. Ultimately, the thing I love about watching Henry is he just does it because he enjoys it. He doesn't change his persona based on who it is around him. He just is Henry. Ultimately, he's not even 21 yet. And there's a lot of rugby left ahead of him. And although he's achieved a lot so far, I'd like to think that's certainly just the beginning of what he could achieve.
George Ford, long pass. And on his debut, young Pollock gets a try. What a way to launch his Test match career.
I'm Baxter. I play for Harlequins and England Rugby. When I first met Henry, I thought it's like having a little brother around. He's full of energy and doesn't care if you haven't. And that's what makes him so brilliant, is that he's so dependable and reliable with that energy and 100-mile-an-hour attitude.
My name's Finn Smith. I play for Northampton Saints and England. Pollock he's not a real life person, honestly. We call him the human soundboard because he literally just walks around shouting 3 or 4 different phrases the whole time. Like, every time he does stuff, I'm just like, I can't believe you're real. Like, what planet are you living on? His game feel, like around just like where to be and timing, and the way he reads defenses, like, is a joke for someone who hasn't played as like a huge amount of rugby. And yeah, his ceiling is ridiculously high.
And again on debut, young Henry Pollock. What a day he's having.
role models at the club would have been, obviously growing up kind of watching Saints from a young age, would have been Courtney Laws, obviously, and I was lucky enough to have my first year with him in that environment, which is amazing. You know, his aura in that environment and the way that he trained and played was near to none that I've ever experienced before. So yeah, it was great to kind of learn off him, and I had some great conversations with him, and yeah, I see whenever I see him, we can kind of catch up and chat, which is nice. But yeah, we had a fun interaction back in probably just before Christmas. I remember just getting the ball on the outside in training. I remember there's quite a funny video. I remember getting past dingers, and then I kind of remember like looking up and then seeing like courts on the inside and the touchlines were out on my right, and I just remember pushing my hand up, handing him off, and then like running down and then passing, and we scored. And then as I kind of pass and then we kind of score, as I'm like running back and like looking over, he kind of like looks at me and goes, "If you want to go full contact, we'll go full contact." And then I remember looking over going, I've done something wrong here. And like completely like, not freaked out, but I was a bit like, it's actually pretty deep this. The last thing he probably wanted was this first year academy lad like handing him off in a touch game. And I remember that all the boys being like, good work. And I remember thinking that, yeah, it probably wasn't the best thing to do. But yeah, we've laughed about that since. And yeah, it's pretty cool to kind of, I guess, look back on that and yeah, have some fond memories, I guess. So it was my debut off the bench, Leicester away in the East Midlands derby. Obviously pretty nerve-wracking, like Welford Road is a pretty intimidating place to go, and to have your debut there, it's probably even worse. You know, I was covering a couple of positions and thinking, you know, I'll probably get 10, 15 minutes off the bench in the latter stages of the game, and unfortunately Sam Graham got injured. Yeah, he had a horrific injury and he basically he did his knee in, and yeah, it was awful, and he was out for the whole year, and yeah, it was pretty kind of horrific to watch that. And then, you know, obviously played that game when he went off. He came off after probably 10, 15 minutes. So I just remember kind of taking it all in, going, this is it now. You know, you've had other conversations, you've done the work, like this is your chance to kind of, I guess, prove yourself. And yeah, I guess in that game, we lost the game, unfortunately, but I'd like to think I kind of proved myself. And then in the change rooms after, I went up to Sammy, and I remember just going up to him being like, I'm just like so sorry, mate, you know, because he kind of looked a bit down, obviously, as you would be, right? And I remember him just saying to me, like, don't be sorry, this is your year. Like, this is your chance now. Go and prove everyone wrong that this is your kind of place. And I just remember thinking that, what like an amazing touch from an amazing person. Like, he's just had like one of the most horrific injuries you can have in the sport. And the first thing he says to a youngster is, this is your chance to prove yourself, and this is your shirt now. So my relationship with social media over the last kind of year, I guess I've come more aware of it, and the fact that it's difficult because you kind of come in as a kid and you don't really have that much attention on you, and then before you know it, you have loads of people kind of making videos and stuff. I kind of just not to think about it too much. At the end of the day, it's probably just like a random bloke making the video, sat on a sofa. It doesn't mean anything, and I kind of lived off that you know, all this kind of talk and everything, it doesn't mean anything unless you do it on the weekend and kind of back it up. And I've always kind of believed in the only people that really I care about is the players and the coaches. So if I can kind of prove to them that I'm who I am and who I'm supposed to be, then I don't really care what anyone else says, I guess. The negative probably makes it's difficult, and those kind of uncomfortable conversations are hard. Like last year at the club, we had a kind of dark period where we were losing games, and yeah, those uncomfortable conversations kind of helped us. But yeah, you need those kind of uncomfortable conversations to be able to then flip the switch and then have those positive outcomes. So last year was pretty nuts year. At the start of the year, my kind of goal was to get to start for Saints and then go with the 20s on the World Cup probably. And then yeah, before you know it, I'm a British and Irish Lion in the summer. So it was mad, and the kind of experiences that I had through that season, like I was on loan to Bedford at the start of the year, and I get my first shot in the Premiership, and after that game kind of getting good run and yeah, playing better, and then obviously a couple injuries, and I got called up by Steve to go to Girona with the first team, which was an amazing experience, and yeah, had an amazing time out there for the week I was there, and then got sent back to 20s, and that was kind of difficult to deal with because I kind of thought I was ready for the international level, and I was kind of annoyed that I was going back to the 20s, even though that's probably where I should have been, and looking back, it definitely is where I should have been. And I remember Steve was always saying like your time will come, like we're not trying to rush you into this environment, it's going to come and it will come naturally. And then played a couple of games in the 20s and then kind of got brought back into the environment, and then lucky enough to play with the boys and against Wales for my debut, which was so special. I just, looking back on that week, it's just so much like fun and excitement from like that whole week. And the main thing that kind of clicks is we sat in the meeting, I was next to Finn Smith, and like you don't really know if you're in the team, and kind of if you kind of know news is good news. And I remember kind of like saying to him like, yeah, he's like, oh, have you had any like news? And I was like, no news. And I was thinking like, oh, there's like potentially like hopefully. And I remember he was kind of sat to the left of me, and the TV and the laptops to the left of me. And I remember him kind of like looking over and then looking back and goes like, bro, unless someone with a surname starting with P's on the bench, you're playing. And I was like, shut up. Like, I'm not, like, I just didn't really believe it. And then yeah, when my name kind of got read out, it was, yeah, it's just kind of one of those moments that you never forget, I guess. And then the kind of meeting ends and everyone comes up to you, congratulates you. And yeah, it was just kind of so cool to be in that environment and then to be able to have it at the Principality at Wales and in front of that crowd. And yeah, those anthems were just, I've never really experienced that before, and it was mad. And then that game was so enjoyable, like came off the bench, 40 put me in some good positions, got a couple of tries, which was nice. And then kind of jogging back and hearing your name on the kind of announcement going, like Henry Pollock scored, and it's like, this is a dream, like, is this really happening? Yeah, we had Kate Middleton there and changing, which is cool, meeting her. And I remember just like constantly just like couldn't stop smiling, just like being so happy. And then yeah, I had like my family up in the crowd and some friends there, which was cool. And yeah, it's one of those days you kind of just never forget. So that game was on Saturday, I believe. And then, so the Sunday, we then traveled back, and I went back to the academy house. I kind of opened the door, and as I opened the door, I like walked through to the kitchen, and these academy houses were quite small in Northampton, and all the boys are there, and they're like chatting to me, and they go like, go in the kitchen. So I was like, oh, all right. So I opened the door to the kitchen, and this massive rat just like ran across the kitchen, and I was like, oh my God, like that just completely put me back like to square one. Like I was just playing like the biggest game of my life, and then next thing you know, I'm in a house with a rat. Yeah, going back into the Saints and having the run we had in the Champions Cup was sick. And as I said earlier, I learned so many lessons from that kind of experience. And then kind of after the Sale game where I scored that try, I remember kind of getting on the bus and seeing these kind of like videos and stuff saying, you know, could he be a British and Irish Lion? And all this kind of thing. And I just remember thinking like, nah, this is never going to happen. Like I'm too young. There's so many better players in this kind of Northern Hemisphere that are so much better than me. And then yeah, kind of as the games went on, kind of more and more belief kind of, I guess, kind of played in my mind that, you know, I kind of bring something that no one else does. And I remember thinking that, and then yeah, obviously I had that announcement day when I was with all the Saints boys, and that was pretty cool. And yeah, kind of getting my name read out, which is, again, it was again just an amazing feeling. You never kind of prepare yourself for that. It's always just something that you kind of hope and wish happens, and it was an amazing feeling. And I remember kind of the boys just jumping on me around the sofa, and I never really forget that. You know, it kind of gives me goosebumps even talking about that. And then I remember walking outside, calling my parents, called my mum, she didn't answer, called my dad, he didn't answer. And I was thinking, this is class, they really don't care, what are they doing? And then yeah, they picked the phone up and they were like crying their eyes out, couldn't quite believe it. And then yeah, I called my brother and he was like, this is sick. And I was like, yeah, this is gonna be fun. Yeah, just such fond memories. And I'd say the nicest thing about that whole kind of environment, just how welcoming all those boys were, whether I was hanging out with a 32-year-old that had like a kid, or just like rocking around with some of the Saints boys. Like everyone was so nice to me, and it's going to be so nice kind of playing against them and just going to see them like before games and after games, and just having a relationship with them is just so nice. As I was the youngest player on tour, I had the responsibility of carrying BIL around. The first week we were in Portugal, I got presented by Mara in a meeting, and I remember thinking, oh, it'd be quite fun, like, you know, carrying this teddy bear around would be quite cool. And then the novelty really wore off pretty quickly, and there's some funny stories about kind of around him and BIL. And probably the most one is like every morning in Australia, or most mornings, like towards the end of the tour, I'd always like come down for breakfast and then go, oh, I forgot BIL again. And I had to like run up and then run back down before I like missed the bus and stuff. Which, yeah, looking back now is fun memories, but in the moment I was like, God, this teddy bear is so annoying. It's just part of the journey, and it was part of like a tradition that they've always had, and it was just kind of amazing to be part of that, I guess, and holding BIL was cool. And then, yeah, probably my favourite moment on tour would have been obviously making my debut was pretty cool in Dublin, and that was special. I had my family, friends there, which was, yeah, again, just another amazing moment. But probably my favourite moment would have been the Great Barrier Reef trip. That was just sick. It was kind of brought to me pretty late. It was like if you don't play on the first test, I guess players get an opportunity to go to the Great Barrier Reef trip. And I remember thinking, like, I don't want to think about it. I want to try and get in the first test team, and then obviously wasn't picked. And then had the opportunity to go to this amazing kind of program and learning about the Great Barrier Reef. And we flew on this propeller plane that had like 8 seats. So we went with Duhan and Josh van der Fleur, and Duhan was scared of flying and he sat in the cockpit on the way there, and I sat on the way back, and it was just an amazing day, and got to swim with like sharks, dolphins, turtles, and we learned so much about like the coral reef, and we were planting trees on the islands. And I remember just coming back after that to the kind of players, and they were like, oh, how was it? And I was like, honestly, it's probably one of the best days of my life. And like, you speak to Josh and Duhan, they probably would say the same thing. It was one of those experiences that you don't really ever forget.